I hope everyone can hear me. I'll start sharing my screen. Hello and welcome everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank GES for giving me the opportunity to talk about my experience on research paper writing. And as a first batch in geomatics, it was quite a challenge in my career. So I learned many things during my past 10 years. So I have made a presentation that will help you to become a better researcher and to present your ideas better and make it a publishable output. So today's session will be focusing on turning an idea into a publication. And I was going to introduce myself, but Sudhita already did that. So we can skip this. And to know a few of the participants, I saw some of the entries, but if anyone can introduce, they can unmute themselves and talk about, tell about their name, discipline, and interested topic. So if anyone wants to unmute or just do the chat, they're welcome to do that. Does everybody wants to say their name, interest, and
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
yes?
So my name is Subham Dungana. I am from Chemical Engineering Department. I was really fascinated by manufacturing technology. So somewhat chemical processing is very good at that. So in future, mainly mostly in agriculture and food sector, the chemical industry is going to bloom. So I think my interest is on that, chemical processing in manufacturing. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this is the first starting step of research paper. So when you have a deep interest, that builds your interest to write, to read, write, and then express. So we'll do that. So this is the, sorry for this. These are the content of the slides. So we'll be, the total slides are almost, there are 34 slides, and we'll be covering what is academic publication, theme, outline, and writing a draft, peer review process, and tips to have a successful publication, and what is not writing. So most people think that writing is something you spend time on, but spending time is not always writing. So to talk about academic publication, if you are saying it academic publication, it is usually an output of research and scholarship. Scholarship here means a hard study, like you are focused on a problem and you do a repetitive scholastic research, then you get some kind of output. So if you see the academic research cycle, so here you can see that there is a different category: knowledge, publication, and access. So what kind of knowledge you are trying to present and what kind of publication you are going to utilize so that people can access. So this has different time. We will be providing the slides also, or you can see the recordings later. So that will help you to understand what kind of different publication outputs are there. And in terms of publication, not only the academia, but R&D from industries are also included as a publication, and especially the research publication. And research publication is something that gives new information. So it is not basically running output, like running a process model and then giving just an output, but it has an outcome. So there should be something new, information generation, new novel method that is going to be adopted by others, or have some kind of implication that is an outcome, not only output. So to talk about the academic publications process, so it starts with a purpose. Look, when you have a purpose, when you feel a problem, when you see something, and when you have a deep interest, that develops a research process. So you have a purpose, then you start raising questions. What is happening here, or what is the issue here? What other peoples are doing, and what is missing, what is the literature gap, and what can you do. Based on those things, you create some assumptions like what you can do, what you cannot do, and then start doing sampling. Because whatever we do in a research or whatever we do for our benefit is always based on samples. We cannot always really model the earth, so we cannot always, because earth is like where we cannot act, it acts by the nature. So sampling is very important, collection of data. And then research methods, you have to select what method you are going to use, what tools you can use. And getting those results is not always enough. You have to have a quality control. Are those results enough or not? And then comes the data analysis. Then those data are curated, and like only the necessary data and like the noises are all removed. And then those, based on those data analysis, you write and report. So report writing is some form of output, but it is not a publication yet. It is just a cycle for the research process. So if anyone can unmute themselves and say, like, if anyone is writing right now, are you writing, and like why are you writing right now? You can write in the chat, or you can just anyone. Nobody is writing right now. I guess not. So why do we publish? So ideally, as I told you, when you do something, you want to communicate that to the community. So the community can be the academic community, or it can be industry, or it can be the local general public. So when you do a year-long research, then you find something that will be useful for the community. So that's why you want to disseminate that. An outcome of a research or research grant or project. So there are different ways of doing research. Like some people do in a wet lab. So you are like, if you are in the medical field, you do in the lab. So if you are in like geomatics, then you do mostly in the field, and there are some you do in the lab. So combination of all these projects and grants, like when you apply for a grant, you need some kind of output to show as a tangible result. So that is why we write a publication, and it is kind of a signal of leadership also. So when you publish, it is a proof that you are capable of understanding a problem and utilizing that problem to find a research question, and then able to understand that, formulate some kind of methodology, apply, and then able to disseminate in such a way that other peers are also approving that. That means you are leader in yourself, that you formulated something and then did something. So it is kind of an essence in academia also. The career, for enhancement of career, it is very important in academia. This is the ideal case, but in reality, it's student must do the work. So there are different ways of saying it, like you must have a thesis, or you must have a paper to publish, or you must have a something as an outcome, otherwise you will not be graduated. So some advisors or the departments have minimum requirement. And in academia, the bitter truth is there is a saying called publish or perish. If you don't publish, you are like degrading, you're like not improving, and you're not showing any kind of progress. So if you are not doing that, so it will kind of perish, and your influence gets reduced. So that's why people publish. So another thing is, like, as I was expecting someone is writing, and right now no one is writing. So I guess I cannot ask this question, how did you get your writing idea? But I would like to ask, like, if you have any idea, like, do you have any thought, like, how did you get that idea? Like, before there was someone interested in chemical engineering, so he must have some kind of thing that activated him, some kind of thing that, like, some basis that caused him to be interested into that. So anyone is interested in something, like, how do you get that idea? how you develop your interest? As anyone can say that?
Hello, am I
Yes.
audible? Hello, I am 𝒆𝒔𝒄𝒉 𝑷𝒂𝒑𝒊𝒕𝒊𝒏𝒈. My background is from civil and rural engineering. So I want to do research in old water supply, traditional water supply system, also commonly known as ET. So any suggestions? I have this idea, like I have this keen interest in this water supply system and our culture heritage. So combining the traditional water supply system and modern engineering, I would like to. I'm thinking of writing a proposal or conducting a research, but I don't have a specific topic what it's gonna be. So yeah.
Okay, so there is a dilemma of like what to do, what should I focus on? So this is I will talk more about this, but this is something related with our academic system also. We are only taught to study and work hard, and then you will get everything in life. But it's in reality, it's not the same. You have to have a plan, like you have to have something as a target. So when you have a target that you want to do this, you have to have some target that is tangible, that you can measure. So you want to work in field, you want to work in academia, you want to work in office, you want to earn some amount of money, you want to have a settlement somewhere. There should be something that is measurable, and then you can focus. So this is the same with the academia. Academia also, I will tell you the process how it goes. But there, if you don't have a target and you just study, at the very end, when there is a thesis or like a project you have to do, then you will end up like, what should I do? Looking back, you will not see anything that you have done, and looking forward, there is no time. So this is somewhat an important thing that you should always begin from the start, like before, when you have studied, when you join your university, when you start your schooling, then you have to think of it slowly. So I will tell you about that process. So yeah, I got some of the just a second, it's okay. So I got the I see that in the participants there are many first, second, third, fourth year students, and there are like graduate students also. So this is, I'm going to break some of the things in year wise. When you are studying, you have to know what you are good at. When you want to write something, you have to first identify what are you good at. So this is actually, this should be done, if you are an undergraduate, this should be done in year 3. So in third year, you should know that what you are good at, what is your interest, and where do you want to proceed after that. You should not wait for fourth year or like 8th semester to run, like to find a project. You should always start from year 3rd. So once you are like very good at, like you are very sure about that what you are good at or what you want to do, you have to roughly be specific with time. Like when you start reading, when you start doing something, you should always focus on your that idea, like thinking that idea always in the background. You should always like start slowly, start doing that. And there is something important is that when you have that target, when you have something in mind, then whenever you are reading something, everything converges to that. So that is the advantage of having a target or identifying what are you good at and where are you going to do. So usually the ideas that comes when you have that in your background, when your mind is always running for that, then your ideas can come while you are reading. When you are reading other stuff, then you suddenly remember, okay, these things are missing or these things can be done. So reading is very important part. You should always be reading that. And when you see a problem, like when you are working at home, your parents are doing something, it's really difficult, then you want to mechanize that. Or you are going to the like boss, and the boss is always like having problem in some space, or like some kind of mechanical problem is always happening. So you can find the relationship between the road and the transport or the like mechanics of the vehicle. If you are working in like somewhere in the rural area, if there are like people who are suffering, and the like especially the disease are happening in like certain season, then you can relate that season with some kind of disease. So what is the relationship between that season or temperature, climate, and then that? So the problem is also a very important thing to know, to get an idea for the research. And out of curiosity, like sometimes when you are sleeping or like doing things or in shower or while traveling in the bus, you can get that pondering, like like if you think that a problem, if you're interested in your background in your mind, then you can get that kind of moment where you are like raising questions like what will happen, what if I do this, what if I do things. Especially this is very good in programming and coding. When you want to like tweak some things, you always run inside your mind. Once you have that kind of ability, then you can get ideas like a eureka moment when you are dreaming. Like sometimes it happens in dream also. When I was in my PhD, I used to think a lot about the problems, and I used to sleep very late because it kept me waking all night. So whenever I used to go to sleep around 4 or 5, then I used to get the idea and like wake up and then start like typing what should I do. If I don't do that, I will definitely forget that. That could also happen to you. And as I told you, when you are in third year, you should know your interest and then start focusing on finding what other people are doing. So you should know, maybe like if you have a certain kind of interest, but in that also, if you want to be very specific, you can follow reports like what people are, what other countries or the recent reports are being published. You can look into, suppose like this is one of the geospatial hype cycle. It is produced, usually hype cycle is produced by Gartner Research, but consulting ware also made this adapted for the geospatial technology. If you see here, some technologies are dying and some technologies are at the peak. So you should, if you are focusing for your career, or if you are focusing for your grad school, if you are focusing for long-term or mid-term goals, then you should always think of what is like good at the moment, which field you are in, which field, what should be narrowed down also. And you can also read recommendations. There are different research committees and research standing committees, committees and like professors or like publications which produce review papers, and there's always a future direction or recommendations. So in the slide, I have embedded a hyperlink in which you can see different examples of transportation related studies. So someone asked where, if there are any ways where we can do the civilian transportation research related research. So this is important. Okay, so where we, what we can do in a transportation and engineering, civil engineering field. So I will provide these slides later. So here you can see all the fields that you can do. So this is done by TRB standing committee. So they have recommended all the possible research after the pandemic. So pandemic changed the travel pattern. So how changing travel pattern can be adapted in research, where we can do the research. They have formulated those kind of things. And if you are interested in Landsat, or like if you are interested in like any kind of land cover, land use change works, then you can go to this UMB's Maryland University's LCLU documentation website, where every PIs and every project researchers involved in LCLU have been publishing and documenting everything there. So after reading those things also, you can get a lot of ideas. This will be done in year 3. And as I told you, for especially for year 1 and 2, you should not focus on research papers. You should not focus at all. This is the time. It is true for the bachelors also. It is true for the masters. I will say you're already very well in like bachelors, but for the PhD students, it comes again to year 1 and 2. You should build your foundation. So PhD and undergrad. For those, for masters, it's a little bit different. For year PhD and undergrad, you should focus on building your foundation. The best thing is search, and always keep searching your idea, whether in internet, whether in books, whether anything, anywhere. So what happens is, when you read first time, you don't feel like it's like, oh, I don't know anything. If you do that, and if you, imposter syndrome, like if you feel low about yourself, then you cannot progress. So what you have to have a determination is, I don't know this, I should study more, I should focus more. So then you should start searching. Then you should have at least like the a good researcher have lots of tabs. So you should have at least 100 tabs open. If you are very good, if you want to be a very good researcher, you should have like at least 100 tabs opening in a day. That means you are always going into a rabbit hole. You are always learning. You are trying to process information. You are trying to absorb all those things. So try to scroll again and again, search again and again, read again and again. So what happens is that first time it doesn't click. Second time, oh, I know this. At least I know this term. You will feel that. And after 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 time in your like first, second, third, fourth year, you'll at least have been searching 100 times. So then you know, I know everything. Like I know this, I've already read this, I know this. Based on this, what can be done? You will start to feel about that. And a very important thing is tools are not foundation for research. So these are like kind of help, but research are more science questions. It starts with problem and it gives some kind of information. Running tool is only a medium like where you will like these things will be aided, but it is not the foundation for research. It will not build your research. So most of the confusion in our universities or like colleges are, if you run a tool, you will get a result that is your done thesis or like that. It's for engineering, it's a project, but it's not a publishable project or like thing unless it is a very novel methodology that you have developed. So you should always grab book, read more books, read others reports, and then start thinking of problems wherever you can, and then start thinking of some kind of uh, concept that you can give some kind of output, something that can be utilized. So for the third and fourth year, this is my recommendation, usually developing your theme or an objective. First, when you identify your interest, try to find 6 to 10 keywords. So those keywords are very important to direct you where to search, what to search. When you start searching that, especially you can search in normal Google or Scholar page, or you can go into any kind of research database. Then you start searching those keywords, you will start getting some articles. In those articles, whatever you read, it doesn't matter. If this is like your first time you're trying to do it, try to read the abstract, introduction, and conclusion part of those articles. At least like 10 articles, more than 10 articles. And while you are reading abstract, you will, when you are searching, you will get the title. You are interested in those keywords, that's why you get the title. So you will go that, and when you read the abstract, you will understand, oh, they are trying to do this. So abstract is always layman terms, it sums up everything. So then you read introduction. Introduction is built on background. So what technology they are trying to do, what other people are doing, and what is the literature gap, and what they are trying to do, what is going to impact after their work, what will be the impact of their work. So after that, you go to conclusion and see that where they are successful, whatever they are saying, whatever they are trying to achieve, where they're successful or not. In many cases, discussion and conclusion are fused. So I will talk more about this later. But in conclusion, if you feel like, okay, they concluded this very well, they concluded this problem very well, their objective, they achieved their objective, then you start collecting that paper and reading that paper in more details. But right now, still you are finding your core idea, core concept. So you collect that paper and aside, and when you are reading, your keywords might change. It will be okay, you will know new words, you will know different kind of jargon, so you will start to refine those keywords. Once you start searching again and again, then you will have at least 10 plus papers which are more fundamental and which will give you an idea of what people are doing, what is the background, where you should be focusing on. And in that moment, you start reading method, results, and discussion. So while you are reading methods, you will know what they are using as a data, what tools they are using, what process they are using, what method you should be learning. So then you can start searching for tutorials, and you see the results. Are there results? Are these results possible in your ability, like in your capacity? Are those results possible? If people, if you have enough data to produce that result or not? And see the discussion. Discussion is where as I told you before, when you run a tool, you will get a result. When you do something, you will get a result. But that result is good or bad. What is the reason how that result came? What the result came, but why that result came? You have to discuss that. And then say that other people are also doing that. So discussion part is very important in publication. So, and then only you decide, okay, I am doing this. So you select up to 4 or 5 papers, and then you start to identify your data method and everything. Then you start like collecting data, learning tools, and then start your research. You should be very absolutely sure in at this time that you can get those data. You have already learned those tools. Then only you will start your research. Further one, we talked before, I think 𝒆𝒔𝒄𝒉 you could have done this a while ago. If you are at a very end moment, it is very late actually, to be honest. Still, if you are focused, if you want to invest a lot of time, you can do this. But if you have started earlier, then you should know your data, what data you are going to use. Is that our data available in your area of interest or not? If you have to prepare yourself, that will also need time. And if you have learned tools or not. So usually these are like third and fourth. If you can, if for the master's probably you can relate it with semester or the like quarter section of that. So talking about the outlines of a manuscript, as I told before, abstract is how concisely you want to, like, you are presenting your idea. What is the essence of that? What is the significance of the result? Those kind of things. Introduction usually gives the background of reader, like for the paper. So for the reader, you have to build the information. If you are writing in some specific journal, suppose you are writing, publishing in a remote sensing journal, then you don't have to build from the start. You don't have to write a textbook style. Only keywords and like direction to the problem would be enough. But if you're writing in different journal, or if you're writing for, if your target audience are not related to that, suppose you are working a researcher in a machine learning, or you are working researcher in algorithm developments, and you are writing for um, the remote sensing community, then you have to at least explain the process, how the algorithms are made, fundamentals behind that, mathematics behind that, coding platforms, coding related jargons, everything. So if based on who is your audience, what is the journal, you have to define the introduction, give the background information. And literature review is what previous works you read before. So while you are doing those keyword search, you are collecting those papers. The core papers that I told you is to guide you to write and to formulate you to stay focused on the data, tools, and other things. But during that time also, before that also, you are focusing on some keywords that were leading you to some other researches that are somewhat related, that will help you to build the background, that will help you to relate your results with reality, compare with results with something. Suppose there is a research that said temperature is rising in Kathmandu. So they have done lots of massive historical temperature data, and they are saying that temperature is rising. And then you did a research where like the ponds and the water quality is degrading everywhere in Kathmandu. The Kathmandu is getting, the water is becoming green, and then like it is getting algal bloom. So now you can say that, okay, this is happening because the temperature is rising, and someone already concluded that. So based on that, you can give your idea. So that's why literature review is very important. But in terms of manuscript, you should focus on your problems, what other people are doing, how those people are tackling those problems, and what are they missing. Usually the conclusions or way forward or limitations have always those things. So whatever they are missing, you have to catch from there to start writing a paper. And methodology, you just explain whatever you utilized to get the results. Results are simply the results. Whatever you get, you can add aesthetic value. If you are making a map, you're just generating a raster or a vector data, then you can make a very beautiful map. You can just present different colors with lots of map components, that kind of things. And in terms of discussion, as I already told a lot about discussion, it is kind of a new insight, like what questions that you are trying to bring attention to the readers, and what they should be aware of, like when they get this result, what they should relate it with. And about writing a manuscript, usually the title, author's affiliation, abstract is always on the top, and discussion, conclusion and recommendation, sometimes discussion, conclusion, sometimes result and discussion are done parallelly in one section. Those, and the last is references. These are done at the end. In terms of some research in transportations, they are a little bit different in structure, and sometimes of like a biomedical or medical field or like biofield, they are a little bit different in terms of the middle section. So introduction, which builds background, problem, literature, and novelty. So materials and method, and then results. Or sometimes you are, if you are presenting something new method that nobody have done, or if you are some kind of tweaking those methods, then in that case, you introduce your background, you present your related works, and you explain every detail of the methodology. And then you say that we are applying this methodology to some kind of case study. So that case study data, experiment, results are all like presented and analyzed or discussed based on the new method. And you can compare with other results like other state of art or like usual like de facto methods, and then say that our method is also good enough to be accepted by the academia or the community. So do you have like any, this is like, I thought someone is starting to write and like someone is at least writing. That's how I created those slides, but I'm not sure if I should ask this. Does anyone have an order of writing? So maybe like there are someone who already published or who have done thesis in their undergrad. So how did you start it? Like how did you outline your work? What did you started with first? Like did you start with the result first? Did you start with tool first? Did you start with anything? Anyone can tell? No one is looking at you. It's Zoom. So just feel free and talk. The more you talk, the better people will know you. And you don't know,
Hello.
you will never know that you will find a good collaborator. You will find someone will notice you, and you may have a better life in research and academia in future.
Hello, I'm Madhav Guragai. I'm currently doing masters in Pokhara University.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to answer this question. Can I speak in Nepali?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
अब हामीले चाहिँ अब ब्याचलर्स डिग्री चाहिँ मैले काठमाडौँ युनिभर्सिटीबाटै गरेको हो। म सिभिल इन्जिनियरबाट हो। हामीले चाहिँ अब पहिला चाहिँ आउटलाइन बनाउनको लागि चाहिँ अब पहिले चाहिँ डाटाहरू कलेक्ट गर्ने, अब कुन विषयको रिसर्च गर्न आँटेको छ त्यसमा चाहिँ सबैभन्दा पहिले एउटा प्री प्लानिङ जस्तो बनाएर त्यसमा चाहिँ डाटाहरू कलेक्ट गर्ने, जति धेरै डाटा भयो त्यति धेरै राम्रो भन्ने तरिकाले चाहिँ अब जति धेरै डाटाहरू बनाउन सक्यो, जति धेरै डाटा कलेक्ट गर्न सक्यो त्यसरी नै त्यसैलाई चाहिँ मोडिफाइड गर्दै चाहिँ त्यसलाई चाहिँ अर्डरमा राख्दै जाने। यस पछाडिबाट पहिला के गर्ने, पहिला एब्स्ट्र्याक्ट गर्ने, त्यस पछाडिबाट इन्ट्रोडक्सन गर्ने भन्ने कुराहरू चाहिँ त्यसरी आउटलाइन गरिएको थियो सर।
Okay. Thank you, Madhav. Actually, कसले केबाट गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ sure छैन. Like it is not sure. So it can be any order. You can follow any order. So these are some of the real persons, real researchers in Twitter. They have posted it. Like this tweet was deleted after some time ago. So, but when you see this, you can see that some people start making figures. You are start to tell the story. So one of my always like I always tell my mentees that before you start, when you build your foundation, when you start like, okay, thought your direction is this, and you should think of where the data are, whatever these things are, you should be able to tell story to your grandmother or grandparents. If you can explain them what you are trying to do, what it is going to result, and where it will be applicable, where it will have an impact, then if she agrees or he agrees, your grandparents, they are like, okay, I understand, then you should proceed your writing. Then you can start searching for data and other things. But that is just my way. Like that is how you should be like confident about your work. But to write and draft, it is not necessary to follow any kind of like there is no order. Whatever comforts you. Some people make figure first, they make the methodology, workflow, and everything, and then start to do other things. Some people in biofield, they always do the experiment, get the data, and after seeing the data, they will say, okay, these data are good, these data are bad, these data can be publishable. So then they start doing that. And some people do literature review at first. So they will do intensive literature review. They will sometimes publish meta-analysis or like a comprehensive review. And based on that, they will start finding the other things. So it is not necessary that you follow any kind of method. So now writing a draft. The very difficult thing about writing a draft is, so now to this moment, you should have an idea what you are trying to do. You should have built your foundation, you should learn your tools and everything. And you should have already run everything and you have a result or you have something to write. Now it's writing time. So now you have to draft your first draft, you have to prepare your first draft. So first thing is always the hardest part, initiating. If you are in a group, who will initiate that? Lead garne, who will be leading that? If you are in a like alone, if you are doing alone, it's like always you're always lazy. You're like thinking always doing this, doing that, and like, oh, I have a time. So I have been like mentoring a lot of students. There are like some students, they started like 6 months ago, and they're still figuring out what they are trying to do. Like they have like I have prepared every outline and everything, but they are still like no one is taking the initiation. Everyone is like Dasai ayo, like Tihar ayo, like family master bhayo, COVID ayo. So some people are like that, and some people who initiated and started writing, they have been successful and they have almost finished. They have even submitted the paper. So if you initiate, other will contribute. Like if you will do something, then your co-author, your friends, or like you will start getting some kind of curiosity, or you'll start reading, you'll do something. So always start. No matter what you write, it doesn't matter. If that is good, bad, you should always start. And to make it more easy, you should break things into smaller things. So whatever you write, like I tell my students mostly to write at least something that you feel like you have done something. So most tangible thing is write 5 lines a day, or like maybe 2 lines a day, or 10 lines a day. No matter what, it should be related with the content, it should be related with the field, or it should be related with the work that you are doing, but write something. In any section it is okay, but you should write at least 5 lines a day. That 5 line every day will add up into 5 pages. Then you will see that, okay, these things are important, these things are not, then you can just throw it away and then that. And another thing is, what is your comfort zone? Some people like to write it, to work at night. Everything is quiet, no one is shouting, nothing to worry. There is no limitations of time. So when you are focused, you start writing, and then when you feel lazy, like tired, you just go to bed. Some people are early morning risers, so they will rise, they do their chores, and then start working. Some people are evening, they're like in evening they like to do things. So whatever schedule you feel comfortable, try to write in that. So as I told you, like always write 5 to 10 lines, and it can be any medium. You don't have to be writing in a pen and paper, you don't have to write in a Word or a laptop, you don't have to open a laptop. You just write somewhere, wherever you are traveling, where you are in mobile. I started with Nokia phones, and in that, like there was this app called Explore, where you can have a text mix, you can make a text, and you should always like write something whenever you're traveling, when you're moving, whenever you get idea, so that you can later transfer it to your things. And this is something like dumping your brain. So what happens while writing or in research is, when you are thinking, oh, I have to do this, then you are blocking everything away. So your brain is always blocked by things. So you have to read something, you have to do other works, but oh, I have to do this first. Then you are blocking everywhere. If you start writing and clearing your ideas, it is like you are clearing your mind. So that's how you will get fresh ideas also. And you are done with this, you are done with that, I have to think of something new. That will create new ideas and new space in your brain. It's actually dumping. And why do people drink coffee? It's like a beta inhibitor. So they're like blocking. They're like, when you get tired, there are some kind of receptors that are being blocked. So what coffee does it, like they will go and try to activate those things. So this is the same way. This is neurologically, like neuroscience wise, it is true. That's why you always write and dump your brains, tiredness and everything. So there was one question, how citation is done in order to avoid plagiarism. So one of the issue in our country is like we don't have any plagiarism check. And even if we get any kind of help and if we get plagiarism check, people think that citation or like just copying and citing is okay, or like if there is a similarity, just paraphrasing is okay, or most people just jumble words and like this is okay. Actually, that is really bad habit. You should never do that. Plagiarism is always bad. It's unethical, and you should always write your own language. You should never copy or like paraphrase those things. As I told you, copying is always wrong unless that is a definition or a quotation. If you are quoting someone, then you can do that. You cannot just copy paste or like and then say I referenced it. It's just adding a in-text reference. And citation is done usually for summary. Whatever that paper that you read has presented as a summary. What is the novel concept they developed, or what is the information they are generating? Any kind of number, any kind of relationship, that is what you should cite. Based on that, you should build your background or problems or research questions. But mostly what people don't know is like they unknowingly just cite keywords. That is not good. So based on keyword, you cannot cite. This is not good way to cite. So for citations, you can use free tools. Mendeley and Zotero are free tools. You can use them. These reference managers are very easy, and once you have built your database, it's very easy. And after that, you can use whatever format you want to do, whatever ways, whatever citation you want to add. It's very easy. EndNote is very popular one. It has lots of formattings and everything, but it is a proprietary. So some people, if they have access in their university, they can use that. So in terms of writing draft, so these are some of the like tips and tricks on writing draft. It is not only for the paper, it is for writing anything. So I know in Asian countries, especially, we have lots of distractions. Your family is doing something, your neighbor is doing something, you feel cold, you are like, you have lots of things, you have to cook every day, like something happens, there is no electricity, there is no internet, something is wrong with laptop. But for that, you should, as I told you, find your comfort zone and time, and try to remove all those distractions as much as possible. First thing, always finish the smallest thing, the next thing that you have to finish. Deadlines important or smallest, whatever you feel comfortable, finish those things. When you finish one thing, there is one less thing to do. So if someone gives you, okay, write the methodology, or if someone like a collaborator, you are co-authoring with someone knows like, we have a problem with the study area, we have to make a map of study area, then you just immediately do that, because making map is not a big deal. Sometimes your small work is blocking a lot of other progress. So always try to finish the next thing and try to close doors. Doors means everything, like shut down everything. Don't be distracted by any other things, like usually mobile phone, laptops, electric gadgets. And even in our room, there are indicators. In US, there are no indicators in room. There are no switch, there are no indicators to distract. But in our country, if you see your room around, there is definitely one or two indicators that is always disturbing. When there is a light, there is always a disturbance. Try to avoid all those distractions, always like, and then stay offline with the phone. Keep always phone away from your reach, and set an alarm, like you are focused for 2 hours, then you don't do anything except writing. If you are distracted by noise, try to use earbuds. And as I told you, distractions, avoid distractions. And tiredness, if you are feeling sleepy, if you are tired, if you feel like, oh, I cannot do this, or like you get a headache, then it is not right time. You should not force yourself into that. If you feel tired, immediately shut it down. and go to do other works, sleep, shower, walk, whatever you want to do. It is actually true for anything, any other things. Whatever you are trying to do, if you force into that, it will create extra burden and your brain will take it more like a negative thing. So it is something negative, so I should always avoid it. Your brain will start to assume that. So that is why if you are distracted and like if you are tired, just stop and do other things. And whenever you feel like I should do it, immediately start doing. As I told you before, for the comfort zone, and most people in our in Nepal or like in Asian countries don't know about the ergonomics of writing or ergonomics of sitting or using electronic devices. You should be at very comfortable zone. Whatever position is comfortable. For long-term goal, your health is very important. That's why you should always maintain postures like straight, head front. Your monitor should be at the high eye level. That kind of things, or like slanted it up. These things will help you become comfortable with writing environment. This thing will not create tiredness. And in some case, like you are very much activated, you are very much interested in writing, you have a deadline, but you don't know that keeping laptop this way or your desktop is a little bit turned down, that's why your eyes are getting glared, or your light is not good, your light is coming from the back and it's creating glaze, that kind of things. So try to search more about the ergonomics and try to see what is comfortable for you. Try to build a space where you are very comfortable. And in terms of like using laptops, sometimes the laptops are not good. Their key spacings are not good enough. You are very big and tall and laptop is very small and you feel like squeezed all the time. Sometimes your trackpads and mouse are not working and you'll get the typers syndrome. You'll get the numbness in your arms. Sometimes the monitor glaze, size, pointer, everything can be distracting. So you could always find a better ergonomics. And in reality, writing is always like rewriting. So whenever you are writing, it is not final. It is never final. Whenever you publish, like you have done with publication, when you read after like few years, you will feel like there is a lot of missing. Even after a day, you will feel like there is missing, there is an error or something like that. In my thesis, I feel like I have not done anything, or like I have not included anything I did, or like there are lots of grammatical mistakes, there are lots of errors, but it's that timeline is done. But for writing, that's why you should always go back and revise, as you do things. For that, try to create different environments. So when you are doing something and you stop, you go do other things and come back and always read that, revise, and then repeat, start writing. That means you start writing again. So the more you read, the more you can identify errors, the more you can refine ideas, the more you understand things. And sometimes what happens, you wrote something, you feel like that is right at the moment, but after some time or like 1 or 2 days, you feel like, okay, this doesn't match with things. And sometimes you write the upper section and go down, and the down section goes into another direction, and you go back and revise and see that, oh, the introduction was really bad. It is not aligning with that. The logical flow is not right. So you have to revise those things. For that, sometime if you are new to the field, if you don't have any kind of experience on that, if it's your first time, or if you cannot find a good reference book, then you can always ask your colleagues, advisor, or third person for the fresher perspective on the writing. So this is what it looks like making a draft. I think WELL is initiative from Australian professor Hugh Grant. So he has really good ideas and really good follow-up on research writing. So you can follow his Twitter also. So his papers are always starting from a white paper. So he will start writing a draft, what to link, what is the logical flow, what to include, create a subsection, and then aggregate them into some kind of paragraph or a section, and then start typing and making it a draft. And this is also an example like how people have done. They have done in a paper and then start typing, and there are like lots of revisions, and then only they get the result. So now coming to peer review process. So there was a question, what are the further steps for publishing any research paper writing after a research paper based on our study. Publication is in academia, it is kind of a good and bad also. You have to publish, as I told you, publish or perish. And publishing is not an easy task. It's very stressful and it takes a lot of time. It depends on the types of thing. So peer review process are traditionally usually two types. The traditional method is closed access. That means you are free to publish, but it's very slow and rigorous, and it will take years, 2, 3, 4 years. And to access those things, you have to go through a library. You have to pay some subscription. You have to go to university or someone who paid that subscription. So it doesn't. It is good. It is very slow and it is rigorous process. It is very good process, but it many people cannot access that. So the publication, the academia or the publication, they started creating a modern method called open access method. In that, all the charges, all the article processing charge, all the future charges are all paid by the author or the project or the funding agency, and they can be very fast, and they're an initiative, and people can access freely. So that has a major impact. But some of the problem with the open access is it is so fast and people pay the money. That's why sometimes the low quality works are also slipped in. It there are good papers and there are some bad papers also. In some cases there are where you cannot identify between good or bad. Everyone is doing, so other are also doing. So based on that, people try to pay it so that the publisher is accepting money just to publish that. It can also happen. So for those papers, you have to check indexing. I would suggest reading at least Web of Science related or Scopus index paper. So the problem with our country is we don't have access to library. So right now there are some ways you can access lots of papers, but in reality, in the university, we cannot access the papers. That's why we end up reading predatory journals or low quality, very low quality predatory journals. So predatory journals are kind of open access. They are actually open access, but open access is also very expensive. You have to pay at least around $1,000 to $2,000, $9,000, $10,000, up to $10,000 if you want to make open access. But what these predatory journals do, that they will ask you $50 or $200 or $10,000, and they will just publish it very easily. They will make no review, and whatever you send, they will always accept. If you send something, they ask a very small amount of money and they accept immediately. There are not much changes, and they have a distortion in figures. There are no proper discussion. Then you should never publish in those things. This will have negative impact, and this will show that you are not careful, you are not following the academic line. This is kind of a bad, what do you call it, this is a proof that you did something wrong, so it will impact negatively. So even for me, I was unaware because I was first in my family, in my cohort, and I was not aware of what kind of publication is. I did some publication in Indian journals, few Indian journals, where I thought it was good because I was reading all those things. But later I realized when people read that, oh, you published here also, it was not good, it was not things. So I still have to answer that I didn't know those things. So that will impact long life. So this is kind of misleading to many early career peoples. So try to avoid that. You can see the list of predatory journals in these websites. But if something is very easy, if they ask a small amount, if there's figures are distorted and they're very textbook style, there is no discussion, never read them, never publish them. I'll say read them just for the idea when you're starting, but don't take them as a trace or don't take them as a reference to do your own work. So the peer review process first starts with finding your target journal. Whatever you wrote, you should be always prepared with the title, abstract, and some keywords. So based on that, you can use journal finder of different publishers, Wiley, Springer, Elsevier, or they're like Andas Group or Taylor Francis. They have different journal finders. So once you enter your title, abstract, and keyword, they will give you relationship of your, like how much is related with the journal and where it is to be published, where is the higher acceptance rate, low acceptance rate, how long it will take you to get the first decision, how long it takes to publication. So based on that, you can decide where to submit. So you have to always, make list of 2 to 3 journals. You cannot just depend on one journal. So another thing is you cannot submit at once in 2-3 journals. That is ethically wrong. You should always submit in one journal, because people are investing a lot of time. Editor is investing, reviewer is investing, every people is working. So you should always submit in one, wait for the result, and then if that fails, if that is rejected, then go to another journal. So this is the overall process. So there was a question, where can I get peers online to proofread any technical article or research that from this paper that I have prepared? The thing is, when you are preparing a draft, you can always ask your friend to review once. You can ask your supervisor, you can ask your someone senior in the family. You can always ask a third person who is not related with the field also. Sometimes they can identify a few things if they are like really smart, or if they are like very curious, if they are like very peculiar, or like they are very meticulous, then they can find out those things. So first thing, you do that. And if you go into the peer review process, you will always have a reviewer. You will always get at least 2 reviewers, 2 to 5 reviewers. So based on that, you will do that. So you don't have to worry on peer review process, who will proofread or who will like do the peer review for you. So before doing that, before submission, once you decide your journal, you should always follow the template of journal. Nowadays, many journals, they provide flexible template, but you should always follow a neat template, because when you are giving your work to someone else, they are reading it, giving their time and investing something on that. If that is not very good, if their size font is very difficult, if they don't like it, like if that doesn't look any good, then there is a high chance they will always go to the negative side. So you should always follow a good template, make format everything very nicely, and it should look very nicely. Always think that your paper is going to be printed. So how does it looks in printed form? So think of that. And that is why I always make PDFs immediately. Whatever I change, I make PDF and then see that how it will look in the 100% zoomed printed form. So always follow the template. And then you should, while submission, you should always prepare a cover letter. Cover letter is for the editor, what you are trying to submit, where you want to submit, what is the novelty, what you are going to present in this, what will the impact be, and if there are any kind of concrete information. So this was a conference paper that was expanded to a bigger full paper, or it was presented from here and recommended from here, that kind of information. And you should always make your figures high quality. When they are printing or they are publishing online, the figures, high quality figures, helps readers to get into more details. So usually PDF A4 papers don't have that, the quality. So prepare figures at least 300 dpi, tables and supplementary data that you can provide. And always have patience. When you submit, you don't rush, you don't keep anxiety, like you are not excited. When it's your first or second paper, you can feel that, but you should know that it is a normal process. So you should be always back to your own work and just wait for the results. And as a process, to explain the process is, you submit the paper, the editors, they will like revise those things. They will try to see that the journal and the work matches or not. And if that doesn't matches, they will reject. If that matches, they will send it to a reviewer. They will find the reviewer, they will start doing the review. And if there is a lot of revision, if they find some kind of flaw, if they find that this is wrong, there is some kind of problem in data, the reviewer can also immediately reject and send it to editor. Editor will say, okay, this is something wrong we found, and then we reject. If there are some good promising things, if they find that this paper is good, this work done is really good, but it needs some kind of major comments or improvements, then there are very good reviewers who will help you direct everything in every section. They will tell you where to write what, they will tell you what is wrong and where you should read more, where you should like maybe do more experiment, that kind of things. So once you get that, there are like major and minor review. Major is like there are lots of comments and you need to work a lot. Minor are simply English or like minor things that you can change and then do that. And then it goes to editor and editor sees that everything, then you start replying them, do all the works and submit again, and it goes back and forth unless the reviewer think that okay, this now is acceptable. After that, editor accepts it and then sends it to the publisher, and then the publication is done. And in academia, in peer review process, there is a saying of be aware of reviewer two. Reviewer two is a kind of a virtual concept. It's like an arbitrary concept where the person dislikes everything. So why did you do this? Why did you do this? This is wrong. This is bad. They will just point out this is wrong and bad. This is thing is not good, but they will not tell you to where to improve. So you should be always aware of discouraging comments. It's in any field, academia, life, anywhere. If someone points out wrong or something, you should always ponder and think that, evaluate yourself. I am doing something. I have worked really hard for this. I know this is good. I will try to get another opinion. So don't always depend on one person opinion or like reviewer two's bad comments, and like try to see other comments also. So recently I had a paper on geodesy. So I think the co-author is also here. And we had like two reviewers who were like very good. They were like 5-star, 4-star comments. And then they were like very happy with the format. And even the English, they were like praising about the English. But there was the third reviewer. So his order was third, but he was kind of second reviewer, like, okay, this doesn't fall in our journal. This is not good. This is like from Nepal and this is very small. It doesn't have any impact. So we should reject that. If we think of that, it is really bad. But others are saying good. If that person is only one who doesn't sees it, that means we have to explain him and make him see that as a reply. So you should always be aware of reviewer two and not get distracted with the negative comments. So for successful publication, it's only writing and doing alone is not enough. So I divide them in like 4 E's. So you should be explicit about any kind of thing. So if you have any confusion, always ask. Like you can always Google. There are like lots of Stack Flows. There are lots of Quora questions. There are lots of resources on the internet these days. But if you didn't find anything, or if you have someone senior advisor who have been through that stage, who have already done it, you can always ask me also. If you want, I will give you my contact. If you feel any kind of issues, you can always email me and ask me. If someone gives you right answer, if someone tells you the right path, it saves a lot of your time. So whatever I learned there, like probably it will take 2 hours to build to say everything I have learned, but it was my 10 years of experience that made me understand these things and able to explain, and you are now getting it. So that is the advantage of asking. When you ask, you get the right answer. It saves a lot of time and you go to the right direction. So you should always ask. And exposure. Try to collaborate with national or international researchers. Don't be like, this is my work and this is like, I want to only do that. This is your work. You're always be in the control of that work, but try to collaborate and see what other experts are available. If the other experts can help you enhance that idea, make that bigger, make that better. And if you can collaborate with international also, there are lots of people who are now abroad, like from you, like we are like now in a situation where like Nepal is very interesting in that sense. Like I think every family member, any participant here, at least 1 or 2 family members is abroad. So they have also different perspectives. There are lots of Nepalese in different universities abroad. You can always find someone when you are reading something related to Nepal or reading something related to your research. You will find someone related. It doesn't matter it is Nepalese or like a foreigner or any other countries. If that is, you feel like that person is the right person, you should always throw an email and ask for a collaboration or ask for the query, help. Usually good people always reply. Who are really true researchers, who always feel like sharing, they will always reply. Sometimes you don't get a reply, don't get distracted, don't get discouraged, always try to reach out to those people. and try to enhance your writing. As we are from the non-speaking countries, English is the major problem. Sometimes English doesn't do very well with us. So try to use editors in Word, try to use Grammarly tools. Grammarly is really free. If you log in with your account, it is like free. There are lots of things that you can get. It can improve a lot substantially. You don't need paid version for that. And there is a Hemingway also. There is a tool that can be used. And to be efficient, if you are collaborating with lots of people, you can use workspace like Google Workspace, Google Drive, Box Drive, MS Office, or OneDrive or Zoho Drive to collaborate. Like so one person is doing and another person are like can do the things collaboratively. So doing back and forth, like sending an email and waiting for the email and attaching the file and again downloading the file creates lots of confusion. So if you do the collaborative way in common space in cloud, it makes very easy writing experience. So there was another question that can we write research paper independently without being associated with supervisors, seniors, or institutions? Yes, this has been a very common question, especially in Asian region. We usually like there. I told you like we have a confusion that when you write tools and like do things, and when you see similar papers in the predatory journals, you feel like you can do these things, and you start to do things, and you want to publish that. So real work, to be honest, like in general, the real research work, real study, it always needs some guidance, no matter what. Even I am like doing good in my field, but still, if I want to do something extra, I want to do something better, then I have to have a supervisor, someone who will guide me, someone who will utilize their knowledge, their resources. And if I'm working somewhere, then I need some workplace, somewhere like experimenting equipments. So because of that, you usually always have someone as a collaborator, someone as a affiliation, somewhere as an affiliation. But if you are doing review paper or meta-analysis, you can always search from your own. So simple thing is like to search a paper also, you have to go through a university. You have to have an affiliation. Although you use other methods, but that how also you are like related with the affiliation. But if you do something very unique and like you write only your opinion, you can actually publish opinion communications. And if you read an article, you can write a reply also. So for those things, you can do solely. And you can also use independent researcher and give your postal address as an affiliation. It doesn't matter. So, but the important thing is always find right collaborators. If you have right collaborators, they will guide you in a better path. You will have a better future, better research, and your work will have a better impact. And usually for the authorship, there are different guidelines. There is like a special guidelines called contributor roles taxonomy. So in that, usually the corresponding author is someone who corresponds with the publisher. So related with that paper, someone emails, write the cover letter, submits, and someone queries, and then they get the email and then forward it to the actual researcher or that. So usually corresponding author role is that. So usually the PI or professor stays as a corresponding author because their affiliation is permanent. Suppose for me, I was in Korea, I was in China, I was in US. So I am changing my affiliation. I don't know where I will be. So I don't have a permanent contact. So usually corresponding authors are professors who are stable. And for the role of the work, there are different categories. As you can see the example here, they're like conceptualization, data curation, formal analysis, investigation, methodology, writing papers, and draft original or like revision, supervision, even like resource software, whoever managed that, whatever you utilize in the work. And one person can be involved into different roles, so that roles can be divided. And usually the co-authorship criteria, this is actually a good format to follow, but it is not necessary that journal will follow these formats and they will ask for you this thing. And in terms of writing, what is not writing? When, as I told in the first, like before starting, I told you, many people think that spending time is writing. Spending time when you are in front of the computer, it's kind of a cheating in a sense that you are investing something, you are investing your time, you are in front of the computer, but you are not doing the actual progress. So searching the keyword, as I gave you, the first task is not a research paper writing. It's not a step. It's somewhat aids in publication, but it is not actually writing. So downloading papers, it doesn't matter. If you are not reading, if you're not extracting, if you're not referencing them properly, like it is not building your, it is not supporting your results, then it's not a task. Scheduling task. So arranging people, arranging doing things, that things is not. Referencing is also not. Building Mendeley library, although it helps, but building Mendeley library, adding things, updating the DOI or other things is not thing. And formatting is also not a research paper in a writing, and emails like collaborators contacting with collaborators and here there is not writing. For me, as a mentor, I have been like collaborating. I have been actually doing these things a lot. And when I assign something, like when I collaborate with some mentees to work, I do these things a lot. It takes a lot of time, but this is not writing. I always give them tasks. I always guide them what to do and try to do all these things so that they will not spend time on these things, because I know these things better and faster way. I teach them and I don't want them to waste time on this. So this is not writing. You should always be careful with that. Okay, this actually ends everything I know about research paper writing, and I hope that you learned something and you now can think of where your ideas should be, what field you are trying to work on, where to look for ideas, and then transform that into a paper. If anyone can unmute themselves and like a reply in the chat, I think everyone, like if possible, everyone should like try to write whatever you learned today. What is the most important thing that you got from this session? Okay, motivation to initiate first step, that's good. What is not writing? Okay, this is also very important to know. Peer review is very important in writing process. Yes, peer review, you should always go through peer review. Don't fall into the trap of predatory journals. You send, you pay $50 or like 2000 IC, 100, like 1000 rupees, and then just publish. That is not the way to do it. It is like rigorous process. It goes back and forth. There's a lot of things. I'm going to prepare my paper. Okay, someone is motivated. That is useful part for me. Drafting, which is we often do, learn it. Okay. So yeah, there are lots of participants. There are 70 participants. Try to write whatever you feel like, whatever you learned, like whatever you feel like, okay, this is something I learned today. Okay, break into steps. That is very important. Try to make into pieces, like one at a time. Okay, many ideas. That's really nice. I think 𝒆𝒔𝒄𝒉, like you are in the process of formulating your idea. I think you will be able to do that. Okay, start telling to your grandparents. This is very important. It's actually kind of a funny, but if you cannot make a story out of your work, it is not going to be a successful work. If you can engage someone into your work, then it's a good work. So for grandparents, you can say that, okay, but I'm telling this in Nepali. So बाटोमा पहिरो गएको गर्छ, पहिरो जाँदाखेरि मान्छेहरूले एकदमै समस्या पाइरहेको छन्। त्यो समस्या चाहिँ कसरी समाधान गर्न सकिन्छ भन्नेमा काम गरिरहेको छु भन्दाखेरि अब के गरिरहेछ भन्दाखेरि मैले सुरुमा सोइलको टेस्ट गर्छु, त्यो माटो कतिको कमजोर छ, माटोलाई चाहिँ के कुराहरू चाहिन्छ, माटोमा चाहिँ रुख रोप्यो भने अथवा घाँस रोप्यो भने त्यसलाई रोकिन्छ कि रोकिदैन, अथवा त्यो रोकिने खालको माटो नै हैन, त्यसमा गिट्टीहरू धेरै छ, त्यसको सम्मिश्रण राम्रो छैन भने त्यस्तो केसमा चाहिँ हामीले भित्ता लगाउने हो कि वाल लगाउने हो कि हो। अब सपोज वाल लगाए अरे, अर्को कसैले वाल लगाएको थियो, अब कहीँ गभर्नमेन्टले चाहिँ वालै वाल लगाइदियो, पैसा खर्च गरेर टन्नै वाल लगाइदियो, तर वालमा चाहिँ विपिङ होल राखेको छैन, पानी पास हुने ठाउँ छैन भने त्यो झन घातक हुन्छ। त्यसले चाहिँ भात हुर्ते त्यो मास नै पुरै के अरे पल्टाइदिन्छ एकैचोटि। त्यही भएर विपिङ होल राख्ने नराख्ने भन्ने कुरा रिसर्च गर्न पर्यो। अथवा नेपाल जस्तो ठाउँमा जहाँ भौगोलिक किसिमले हेर्ने भने एकदमै गाह्रो छ, सबैतिर एकदमै नियो माउन्टेन्सहरू छन्, अनि त्यसमाथि एउटा रिसर्चहरू चाहिँ के अरे कन्स्ट्रक्सन गर्न एकदमै एक्सपेन्सिभ छ, एन्ड द प्रब्लम इज अल्सो करप्सन है। त्यस्तो केसमा घाँस लगाउने, एकदमै जङ्गली घाँस जसको जरा एकदम बलियो छ, जसले एकदमै मजाले समात्छ घाँस माटो भने त्यो काम गरेँ भने मैले चाहिँ धेरै कुराहरू चाहिँ पहिरो जान दिँदैन, मान्छेहरू बाटो सुविधा सजिलो हुन्छ, कहीँ रोकिँदैन, कहीँ राति दुःख हुँदैन भनेर यदि यसरी बुझाउन सक्छौ भने बल्ल छोराले चाहिँ अथवा नातिले चाहिँ गर्न लागेको काम यो हो भन्ने हुन्छ क्या। Joining, I'm secondary student, adding 8 tools, enhance writing. Okay. So okay, yeah, tools are use गर्न जान्नुपर्छ। तिमीहरू अब अहिले कति ठाउँमा चाहिँ अब अहिले त सँगै काम गर्ने अवस्था छैन, गुगल ड्राइभहरू युज गर्ने, बक्स ड्राइभहरू युज गर्ने, कोलाबोरेटिभली असाइनहरू गर्ने टास्क, अनि वर्डहरूको भएको फुल क्यापेसिटी, वर्ड पावर पोइन्टहरूमा फिगर बनाउने, आफ्नो मौलिकता, जहिले पनि आफ्नो ओरिजिनालिटी देखाउनलाई चाहिँ कसैले कपी गर्ने हैन, आफूले केही कुरा गर्ने, आइडिया जेनेरेट गर्ने, रफ स्केच बनाउने, अनि पावर पोइन्टमा ड्र गर्ने, फोटोसपमा ड्र गर्ने, फिगरहरू आफै बनाउने, अनि तिम्रो वर्डहरूमा भएको एडिटरहरू युज गर्ने, रेफरेन्स टुलहरू युज गर्ने, ग्रामरलीहरू युज गर्ने, इन्हान्स गर्न। This is good, like recording your idea permanently. आफूले के आइडिया सोचिरहेको छ भने तुरुन्तै कतै केही लेख्ने बित्तिकै त्यो कुरा चाहिँ कतै न कतै एउटा प्रुफ जस्तो हुन्छ के। मैले यहाँ सुरुमा म युएसमा सुरुमा आउँदाखेरि मेरो फिल्ड ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन, मेरो जियोमेटिक्स हो, ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनमा म आएँ। त्यसमा पनि रिमोट सेन्सिङमा म एकदमै पहिला मेरो सबै हेभिली वर्क रिमोट सेन्सिङमा थियो, एकैचोटि जिआइएस फिल्डमा, जिएस ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनमा। अनि ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनमा आउँदाखेरि मैले केही कुरा गर्थेँ, त्यो कुराहरू कति अनसक्सेसफुल हुन्थ्यो, फेलियर हुन्थ्यो, अनि मैले सुपरभाइजरलाई देखाउन पर्यो भने केही पनि हुन्थेन, तर मैले फेलियर पनि सबै कुरा नोट गर्थेँ, एउटा स्लाइड डेक बनाएको थिएँ, स्लाइड डेकमा एभ्रिथिङ क्याप्चर गरेर राख्थेँ। अब त्यो मेरो केसमा चाहिँ प्रोजेक्टको काम भएको हुनाले स्लाइड क्याप्चर गरे पनि हुने हो, तर कति केसमा चाहिँ ल्याबहरूको केसमा अथवा तिम्रो बायोमेडिकल अथवा फिल्ड वर्कको केसमा राइटिङ समथिङ केही एक दिनमा केही प्याराग्राफ लेख्छौ अथवा केही कुरा लेख्छौ भने त्यो कुराको लर्निङ, त्यो कुराको फेलियर कुरा लेख्छौ भने चाहिँ एउटा रेकर्ड हुन्छ जसले चाहिँ तिमीहरूलाई हेल्प गर्छ। Okay, understanding microwave things. Okay, fruitful. Okay, अब यति भएपछि रिप्रेजेन्ट। ओके, यो एउटा कुरा चाहिँ प्रिडेटरी जर्नल भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ एकदमै डरलाग्दो कुरा हेर। अहिले चाहिँ तिमीहरूले देखेको नेपालमा पनि अहिले सायद टियुले अथवा युजिसी ग्रान्टहरूले पनि अहिले चाहिँ यो इन्डियन पब्लिकेसनहरू जे पाइ त्यही पब्लिकेसन प्रिडेटरी पब्लिकेसनहरूलाई चाहिँ मान्दैन, अहिले एक्सेप्ट गर्दैन, तिनीहरूलाई चाहिँ नेगेटिभ मार्किङ। इभन अहिले मिड वेस्टर्नले भर्खर खोलेका एसिस्टेन्ट प्रोफेसरहरूमा नेगेटिभ मार्किङ हुन्छ, मार्किङ एक्सेप्ट नगर्ने पनि होइन कि नेगेटिभ मार्किङ हुन्छ भनेर गरेको छ क्या सायद है। त्यो भएर यो पेपरहरूले के गर्छ भने सिम्पली नोटबुक जस्तो लेख्छ, त्यसपछि रिजल्ट देखाउने, त्यसपछि सिद्धियो भने जस्तो गर्छ। त्यो खास तिनीहरू पैसा कमाउनलाई बसेकोहरू हो, तिनीहरू केही समयपछि हराउँछ पनि। मैले सुरुमा पब्लिस गरेको जर्नलहरू मलाई थाहा थिएन, म पनि आफूले सिक्दै आएको मान्छे जे पढाएको थिएँ त्यही आधारमा यस्तो लेख्न सकिँदो रहेछ है भनेर लेख्दै गएँ, तिनीहरू पठाएँ, $50 $100 तिर्दै गएँ, लास्टमा पछि थाहा भयो कि त्यस्तो कुरा होइन रहेछ, त्यो कुरा चाहिँ रङ रहेछ भनेर। अनि अहिले त्यो जर्नलहरू छँदै छैन कि, पेपरहरू छ, पेपरहरू राम्रो छ, मेरो राम्रो आइडियाहरू त्यतिखेर सिद्धियो कि जतिखेर त्यो चाहिँ राम्रो पेपरमा पब्लिस हुन सक्थ्यो। त्यही भएर मेरो राम्रो आइडियाहरू चाहिँ पहिल्यै डिप्लिट भएर गयो क्या, त्यसको क्वालिटी नै भएन। त्यही भएर पछि आएर मैले चाहिँ 2012 देखि सुरु गरेँ पनि 2016मा आएर बल्ल मेरो फर्स्ट एससीआई लेभलको वेब अफ साइन्स लेभलको पेपर पब्लिस गरेँ अब मैले। सो शुड बी अवेयर अफ द्याट। त्यो लिस्टहरू हेर एकचोटि। ल अब यतिबाटै एन्ड गरौँ है यो चाहिँ। अब त्यसपछि नेक्स्ट सो दिज आर द रिसोर्सेस है। मैले स्लाइड मैले पछि इमेल गर्छन् होला, यदि जसले चाहिँ रेजिस्टर गरेको छ इमेल, दे विल गेट द स्लाइड लिङ्क। पछि यो हेर्दा पनि हुन्छ, रेकर्डेड उसमा गएर पनि हेर्दा हुन्छ। दिज आर द रिसोर्सेस। एन्ड there was one question: is there a way to get mentor teachers to guide research field in the transportation engineering in Nepal? I think someone is very much interested in transportation engineering. If you are already graduated, I think then I actually don't know what is the motivation of your research, but usually for third plus years, 3 years and over, you can always relate with someone in your field. When you start searching things, when you start doing things, searching and reading things, you'll always find someone who is already active in the field. So that's why actually I wanted to, that is the problem I faced when I was doing things. I emailed a lot and got very few response, and that is why I started Mentor for Nepal initiative. So you can see those links You can see the link in the GitHub. There is a GitHub page for that. Once you are confident enough that you want to do something in the field, or you are like related with the field, if you have a concept, then you can fill up the form of the mini project. And while reading, you can do the literature survey. There is a form of that also. There is a table what to read in a paper, what to not read in a paper. After that, if you will email me, I will try to contact someone who is exactly match for you. First, many things I can also guide for, especially for the transportation. I can guide you about GIS related transportations and something related with the what do you call it, planning and other stuff. But for if you are going for the policy level, if you are going for the transportation pattern and other things, probably I can find someone with you. There is if you have known Suresh Acharya, so he's also a very good scholar. He is very good in transportation. There are some person I know who is working constantly with those person. I can get those persons to be in touch with you so that you can expand your research in transportation engineering. So try to contact me with whatever details you have, and then I will try to manage. I'm also planning to expand Mentor for Nepal for other fields like forestry, environment science, medical science, neuroscience, and I hope if I get enough, I am trying to contact lots of people who are already in good research domain, and if I can do that, we can definitely find a better match.
सर यो क्वेसन चाहिँ मैले सोधेको थिएँ है, म चाहिँ खासमा इन्ट्रेस्टेड चाहिँ यो ट्राफिक मोडलिङ र मेसिन रिलेटेड फिल्ड हुन्छ नि, हो त्यस्तोमा चाहिँ इन्ट्रेस्टेड छु, तर खासै मेरो ब्याकग्राउन्ड चाहिँ खासै छैन हैन, अनि यही बारेमा चाहिँ मलाई कोलाबोरेटरहरु
ब्याकग्राउन्ड चाहिँ छैन भन्नुको अर्थ भनेको तिम्रो चाहिँ तिमीले तिम्रो पढाइको लेभल के हो?
मेरो सर अन्डरग्रेड मैले अन्डरग्रेड गरेको, तर मैले इलेक्टिभ पनि प्लानिङहरु लिएको थिएन, अनि त्यही बस जस्ट ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन 1 and 2 मात्रै पढेको।
ओके, बाहिर खासमा पढाइलाई चाहिँ अथवा रिसर्चलाई यही नै पढ्नुपर्छ भन्ने जरुरी छैन। पढाइ भनेको कस्तो हो भने हाम्रोमा चाहिँ पढाइ भनेको एक धारे भन्ने सोचिन्छ, यो पढ्यो त्यही पढ्नुपर्छ, त्यसैमा जागिर खानुपर्छ, त्यसैमा बस्नुपर्छ, त्यसैमा लाइफ बिताउनुपर्छ भन्ने सोचिन्छ। खासमा रियालिटीमा त्यो भन्दा नि आफूलाई के मनपर्छ, कतातिर इच्छा लाग्छ, कतातिर चाहिँ रमाइलो लाग्छ, के गर्दाखेरि आफूलाई आनन्द आउँछ त्यहाँतिर फोकस गर्ने हो। अब तिमीले एउटा कुरा गर्यौ भनेपछि तिम्रो त्यो एउटा प्रुफ कस्तो हो भने तिमीले पढेर फाउन्डेसन बिल्डअप गरेका छौ, त्यो कुरा चाहिँ हरेकतिर अप्लाई गर्न सक्ने एबिलिटी हुनु पर्यो के। तिमीले समस्या हेरेर समस्यालाई चाहिँ बुझ्न सक्ने एबिलिटी हुनु पर्यो। तिमीले बेसिक फाउन्डेसन म्याथमेटिक्स पढ्यौ, बेसिक फाउन्डेसन साइन्स पढ्यौ भनेपछि तिमीले त्यो कुराहरू बुझ्न सक्ने हुनु पर्यो। त्यसैले त्यो बुझेको कुरालाई चाहिँ कसरी के गर्ने भन्ने कुरा गर्न पर्यो। अब तिम्रो ब्याकग्राउन्ड कतै केही छैन, ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनमा गर्न मन छ भनेर, अब यहाँ फेरि हेर है, मैले त्यो अघि भने जस्तो इच्छा चाहिँ छ गर्ने तर ब्याकग्राउन्ड पनि छैन। अब त्यो बिचको ग्याप जुन छ नि, मैले भने तिमीलाई सर्च गर्नुपर्छ 100 चोटि, बुक पढ्नुपर्छ, 24 घण्टा त्यही सोच्नुपर्छ। अब यो चाहिँ नगरिकन एकैचोटि आइडिया कसैले तिमीलाई चाहिँ दिँदैन कि। आइडिया दिने भनेर चाहिँ कसैले चाहिँ तिमीलाई डाइरेक्सन दिन्छ, यो गर भनेर गरेर त्यसरी गरेको त्यति अर्थ पनि हुँदैन हेर।
हजुर सर।
त्यो भएर पहिला फाउन्डेसन आफ्नो बिल्डअप गर। मैले तिमीलाई भने जस्तो यो एकचोटि यो मिनी प्रोजेक्टको डकुमेन्ट एकचोटि हेर, त्यो डकुमेन्ट हेरेर त्यसमा भएको क्वेसनहरू चाहिँ तिमीले फिलअप गर्न सक्छौ, त्यसमा भएको टेबल फिलअप गर्न सक्यौ भने चाहिँ यु आर कन्फिडेन्ट द्याट यु विल डु द्याट। अदरवाइज अलिकति अप्ठ्यारै हुन्छ होला हैन। तर पनि अब तिम्रो इन्ट्रेस्ट छ र अब ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन मोडलिङमा त मेरै आफ्नै डिपार्टमेन्टमा पनि ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन स्टडिजको हो। अब मैले मेरै आफ्नै डिपार्टमेन्ट टन्नै छन् मान्छेहरू। अब तिम्रो केही कुरा राम्रो कन्सेप्ट छ, तिमीसित अब इनफ गर्न सक्ने एबिलिटी देखिन्छ र मैले चाहिँ प्रमिसिङ देख्छु भने आई क्यान गेट इन टच with those peoples.
हजुर सर।
अब तिम्रो अहिले पढाइ चाहिँ पढिरहेको त होइन होला, अहिले जब गरिरहेको छौ, अब इन्डिपेन्डेन्ट रिसर्च कसरी गर्न खोजेको छौ त्यसमा पनि भर पर्छ के। रिसर्च भनेको चाहिँ अब अलिकति टाइम र कस्ट इन्भेस्टेड हुन्छ के, यतिकै चाहिँ हुँदैन अनेस्टली भन्ने हो भने।
हजुर सर। अहिले त म फ्री नै छु, जस्ट स्टडी सकेको छ, फ्री नै छु।
So we have some queries.
Okay, ल queries मा जाम त्यसो भए।
Sir, hello sir, मसँग सर सर्टेन क्वेरीजहरु छ सर हैन, फर्मबाट आका हैन सर। सो पहिलो क्वेशन चाहिँ के छ भन्दाखेरि सर, we are talking about research article and so on, and how can we prepare article? Answer is by searching on Google or using Google Scholars. by only internet. But what's the guarantee that the results we obtain from Google is always right? That the files we need for the articles can be from another person who uploaded in the article with some doubts. How can we believe that it's good or bad?
Okay, I think यसको आन्सर अगाडि नै आइसकेको छ जस्तो लाग्छ हैन। अब जसले सोध्या हो उले यदि यहाँ कोही छ भने उले आन्सर पाए कि पाएन एकचोटि सुनाउ त।
नै सर, उयोका बीचमा मैले सोधेको मैले पाएन।
पाएन? ओके। फर्स्टमा तिम्रो जर्नल मैले पहिले भने प्रिडेटरी जर्नल पढ्ने हैन। तिमीले सुरुमा सर्च गर्ने भनेको गुगलमा भन्दा पनि एक्चुअली जर्नल पेपर नै खोज्ने हो भने चाहिँ स्कलर नै युज गर्दा बेटर हुन्छ। स्कलर भनेको जहिले पनि राम्रो हो, स्कलरबाटै सोच। खासमा बाहिरतिर मैले भने लाइब्रेरी सब्सक्रिप्सन हुन्छ, सब्सक्रिप्सनमा गएर लाइब्रेरी भित्रबाट गयो भने सबै सब्सक्रिप्सनहरुबाट सर्च गर्न मिल्छ। त्यो भएर त्यहाँ एक्ज्याक्टली पाइन्छ। तर नेपालमा त्यो नभएको हुनाले सायद अहिले टियुले ल्याए जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई। तर त्यो नभएको खण्डमा चाहिँ तिमीले गुगल स्कलरमा सर्च गर्ने। स्कलरमा सर्च गर्दाखेरि फर्स्टमा हेर्ने जर्नल कस्तो हो, जर्नलको इन्डेक्सिङ कहाँ छ, जर्नलको क्वालिटी के हो। जे पाए त्यही जर्नल हो, रिजल्ट मात्र छ, जे पनि छापिरहेको छ, फिगरहरु मिलेको छैन, अनि डिस्कसन प्रपरली छैन भने त्यो जर्नल होइन। त्यो जर्नल हेर्ने हो, यस्तो लेख्दा रहेछ नि, यो चाहिँ प्रिडेटरी रहेछ भनेर बुझेर छोडिदिहाल्ने। जहिले पनि आफ्नो फिल्डको राम्रो जर्नल कुन हो भनेर पहिला सर्च गर्ने अलिकति। त्यसपछि तिमीलाई आफै थाहा हुन्छ कि यो कुरा सही हो, यो कुरा गलत हो भनेर। अनि तिमीले भने जस्तो कसैले चाहिँ रङ इन्फर्मेसन डिसिमिनेट गर्छ भन्ने कुरा जुन गर्यो, रेयरली कसैले गर्छ हैन। अब अहिले चाहिँ अब स्पेशली फेसबुकहरु जस्तोमा चाहिँ त्यो टाक्कटुक्क फेक न्यूजहरु हाल्ने बेग्लै कुरा हो। तर एज अ तिमी पनि त एज अ स्टुडेन्ट हो नि त, तिमी पनि स्कलर भएको हुनाले राइट रङ तिमीले पनि छुट्याउन सक्छौ। त्यो तिम्रो पनि एबिलिटी हो, तिम्रो पनि रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी हो के। जहिले पनि फेक न्यूज फेक कुराहरु चाहिँ तिम्रो पनि रेस्पोन्सिबिलिटी हो, त्यसलाई चाहिँ बढावा दिने कि नदिने भनेर। त्यस्तो केही प्रब्लम हुँदैन, जहिले पनि सोध्ने, कसै न कसैलाई चाहिँ सोधिहाल्ने इमिडिएटली, आफ्नो सिनियर यताउतालाई सोधिहाल्ने। Okay.
So we have another question, same person but I know sir. Another is, if we are doing research which haven't been performed in future, at this circumstance we get nothing from internet. So what should he do? Like if he's trying to get a research paper on completely new topic about which he could not find any information on internet, what should he do?
Okay, this is something very interesting. There was a case where 3 different scientists from 3 different countries who never met published, like presented same idea, same thing in the same conference. So there is a saying like great minds think alike. अब यो चाहिँ अलिकति इम्पोसिबल नै हुन्छ कि कुन कुरा तिमीले गर्न खोजेको छौ कसैले पनि गरेको छैन भन्ने चाहिँ इम्पोसिबल हुन्छ, किनभने अहिलेको वर्ल्डमा एकदमै जसले पनि कहिले न केही गरिरहेको हुन्छ। तर तिमीले गर्न लागेको फिल्ड के हो, त्यसको बेसिक फाउन्डेसन र त्यसमा चाहिँ कसैले केही न केही गरेको छ, त्यसको आधारमा बल्ल त तिमीले केही समस्या हेरिरहेका छौ। नभइकन त त्यो भएन पक्कै। जस्तै अगुमेन्टेड रियालिटी भनेर अब आयो, लाइक कम्प्युटर साइन्समा अगुमेन्टेड रियालिटी भनेर आयो। अगुमेन्टेड रियालिटी भन्ने आउनुभन्दा अगाडि पहिला लेयर इम्पोजिसन, लाइक 2टा लेयर कसरी एड गर्ने भन्ने कुरा सिक्थ्यो। त्यो लेयर चाहिँ एड गर्दाखेरि त्यो रिसर्चको बेसिसमा चाहिँ अब मुभेबल कुराहरुमा चाहिँ कसरी एड गर्ने भन्ने कुरा आएको हो नि त। त्यही भएर जहिले पनि साइन्स भनेको रिफरेन्स त्यही भएर हुने हो, साइटेसन हुने कारण त्यो हो। कसैले केही रिसर्च गरेको छ भने यु स्ट्यान्ड अन द शोल्डर अफ जायन्ट्स भन्छ के। तिमीले कसैले गरेको एकदम राम्रो कामको आधारमा तिमीले अझ राम्रो काम गर्ने हो। त्यही भएर त्यस्तो एकदमै नयाँ फिल्ड छ मैले केही पनि पाइन भन्ने कहिले पनि हुँदैन। तिमीले खोज्न नजानेको हुन सक्छ, राइट ठाउँमा नखोजेको हुन सक्छ, तर युजुअली भेटिन्छ। बुक पढ। अब अलिकति हाम्रो कन्सेप्ट कस्तो छ भने तिमीले केही कुरा गर्न खोज्यौ भने, हामीले कसैले केही कुरा गर्न खोज्यौं भने टेक्स्ट बुक नै हुनुपर्छ अथवा कसैले त्यही कुरा टक्क गरेको हुनुपर्छ। अहिले पनि मैले यहाँ प्रेजेन्ट गर्दाखेरि धेरै जसो कन्सेप्ट मैले रेप्लिकेसन वेमा सिकाइरहेको छु, किनभने हामीलाई धेरै कुरा अभाइलेबल छैन। त्यो भएर रेप्लिकेसन वेमा गर्दै जाँदाखेरि एउटा सर्टेन टाइम आउँछ जतिखेर सबै कुरा बुझेपछि अनि बल्ल यु फिल लाइक ओके दिस इज माई मोमेन्ट, आई सुड स्टार्ट माई ओन भन्ने फिलिङ आउँछ कि बल्ल तिमी आफ्नो नोबल कन्सेप्टहरूमा जान थाल्छौ, त्यतिखेर तिम्रो एबिलिटी बिल्डअप हुन्छ। अहिले चाहिँ मैले हाम्रो नेपाल जस्तो ठाउँमा जहाँ केही कुरा भएको छैन, एकदमै नेसेन्ट छ रिसर्चहरू, त्यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ अर्काको हेरेर त्यसमा हाम्रो कन्डिसन के छ, हाम्रो रिसर्च, हाम्रो एबिलिटी के छ, क्यापेबिलिटी के छ, त्यसको आधारमा चाहिँ हामीले गर्ने हो। ओके, नेक्स्ट।
So we have another question from 𝒆𝒔𝒄𝒉 �Ｄ𝒂𝒑𝒆𝒓 actually, I'm gonna ask about the tools used in research paper writing. I'm currently doing master's degree research. Recently, I found that LaTeX is very good for research writing and manage quality. Can you suggest me some more tools? You want suggestion for tools to write research paper?
Okay, कम्प्युटर साइन्स ब्याकग्राउन्डलाई अथवा जसलाई प्रोग्रामिङ सजिलो लाग्छ, जसले चाहिँ अलिकति सिन्ट्याक्स बुझ्छ, उसलाई चाहिँ लेटेक्स एकदमै सजिलो र राम्रो हो। लेटेक्सले एकदमै निटली बनाउँछ सबै कुरा, एकचोटि गरेपछि त्यसलाई चाहिँ फर्मेटिङ गर्न, कपी गर्न, रेप्लिकेट गर्न एकदम सजिलो छ। तर हामीलाई चाहिँ अब अरू फिल्डहरूलाई चाहिँ अलिक त्यति सजिलो नलाग्न सक्छ। त्यही भएर बेसिक त मैले गर्ने भनेको, अथवा मैले पनि आफूले गर्ने भनेको, वर्ड र पावर पोइन्ट इज मोर देन इनफ अलवेज। वर्डमा तिम्रो फर्मेटिङ गर्ने सबै कुरा छ, त्यसमा एडिटर छ। अहिले त झन् 2016-17हरूका नयाँ वर्डहरू त एकदमै एडभान्स छन्। अब तिम्रो जुनसुकै इङ्ग्लिस लेभल होस्, लाइक ग्रामर, सिन्टेक्स, कन्साइज, इभन लाइक लजिक, त्यस्तो कुराहरू पनि चेक गर्छ। त्यही भएर वर्ड इज मोर देन इनफ टु राइट एनी काइन्ड अफ पेपर है। अब रिफरेन्स म्यानेजरलाई रिफरेन्स म्यानेजर युज गर भने रिफरेन्सको लागि इन्टेक्स, साइटेसन र बिब्लियोग्राफीको लागि। जब तिम्रो ग्रामर चेक गर्न पर्यो, यताउता अलिकति एडजस्टमेन्ट गर्न पर्यो नि, ग्रामरली हेमिङवेहरू जस्तो टुल युज गर। सायद योभन्दा बढी त केही पनि चाहिँदैन जस्तो लाग्छ है मलाई। लेटेक्स, इफ यु आर इन्ट्रेस्टेड एन्ड इफ यु आर रियली गुड विथ कोडिङ एन्ड यु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड द सिन्टेक्स, गो फर लेटेक्स।
So we have another question. अब यहाँ जेसन पोखरेलले सोध्नु भएको छ, उहाँलाई machine learning related केही क्वेसन सोध्न छ सर। Can he unmute himself and ask you the question?
Okay, he has already written here. Okay, GitHub is here, researching. Okay, you can ask. Okay, unmute and ask.
नमस्ते सर, मेरो नाम चाहिँ जेसन पोखरेल। सर, एउटा हजुरको मैले गिटहब लिङ्कमा चाहिँ एकदम खतरा लाग्यो सर। यसो उयो के भन्छ, हजुरको प्रोजेक्टहरूको बारेमा थोरै भनिदिनु न भन्न सोधेको थिएँ सर।
ओके, अब मेसिन लर्निङ कतिको बुझाए हो भन्ने कुरा हो। जस्ट सिम्पली टर्म भनेको मेसिनको लर्निङ हो कि मेसिनले लर्न गरेर केही कुरा गर्ने हो। त्यो भएर मैले गर्ने भनेको जियोस्पेसियल फिल्डमा हाम्रो जियोमेटिक्स एकदमै नेसेन्ट, हाम्रो जियोमेटिक्सको खासै काम भएको थिएन। अनि मैले पनि आफूले मेसिन लर्निङ फर्स्ट टाइम सिक्दाखेरि मैले गर्ने रिसर्चहरू भनेको क्यालिब्रेट, स्पेसली भ्यालिडेसन बेस्ड रिसर्चहरू हो। एप्लिकेसन कहाँ गर्न सकिन्छ र त्यसलाई भ्यालिडेट कसरी गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुरा गर्ने। त्यसमा चाहिँ मैले मोस्टली गर्ने भनेको ल्यान्ड कभरमा, सर्फेस वाटरमा, त्यसै डिजास्टरमा हो। अहिले अब ट्रान्सपोर्टेसनहरूमा पनि युज गर्न लागिरहेको छु। तिमीले सर्टेन एउटा डेटा लिन्छौ, त्यसमा अलरेडी एक्जिस्टिङ कन्डिसनहरू, एक्जिस्टिङ नलेज, तिमीसित एउटा अलरेडी डिफाइन्ड रुल छ भने त्यसलाई चाहिँ एक्सप्यान्ड गरेर अरू ठाउँमा चाहिँ नहेरिकन त्यो डेटा, नयाँ डेटा त्यो नचिनेको ठाउँमा अप्लाई गर्ने चाहिँ तरिका हो मेसिन लर्निङ। अब तिम्रो मेसिन लर्निङ भन्ने कुरा अहिले इन्टरनेटमा हेऱ्यो भने तात्तै जे पनि भेटिन्छ होइन। मेसिन लर्निङको मेन प्रब्लम भनेको कहाँ हो भने टुल रन गर्न एकदम सजिलो छ। देयर आर हन्ड्रेड्स अफ टुल्स, ओपन सोर्सले गर्दाखेरि टुल्सहरू जति पनि पाइन्छ। तर त्यो टुल्सले गर्दा के हुन्छ भने डेटा बुझ्नुपर्छ, फाउन्डेसन बुझ्नुपर्छ, तिम्रो फिल्ड राम्रोसित बुझ्नुपर्छ, रिलेसनसिप के बुझ्नुपर्छ। नबुझिकन रन गर्दाखेरि 90%, 80%, 100% देखेर दङ्ग पर्दाखेरि रिजल्ट क्यान बी बायस्ड। अब गुगल, फेसबुकहरूसित एकदमै ठुलो एआई र एकदमै ठुलो न्युरल नेटवर्क छ ट्रेन्ड, तर उनीहरूले गरेको रिजल्ट एकदमै केयरफुल्ली पब्लिस गर्छन् र त्यो पब्लिस गरेको रिजल्ट उनीहरूले कहिले पनि पेपरमा पब्लिस गरेका छन् तर कहिले पनि ओपन गरेका छैनन् अहिलेसम्म, किनभने दे आर अल्सो नट कन्फिडेन्ट के। त्यही भएर म्याक्सिमम इन्भेस्ट गर्नुपर्ने डेटामा हुन्छ। त्यही भएर डेटा र आफूले गर्न लागेको फिल्ड एकदम राम्रोसित बुझ्यौ भने त्यसपछि बल्ल नेक्स्ट स्टेप हो कि तिमीले चाहिँ मेसिन लर्निङ युज गर्ने।
सर, मैले बुझ्न खोजेको चाहिँ सर यो हजुर यो डिप लर्निङहरूको हजुरले प्रोजेक्ट गर्नु भएको छ, अब्जेक्ट डिटेक्सनहरूको होइन। यसको लागि चाहिँ सर अब डाटा प्रोसेसिङ, फिचर इन्जिनियरिङहरू हजुरले आफै गर्नुभएको कि के हो त्यो पनि बुझ्न मन थियो सर।
ओके, अब यो चाहिँ खासमा रिसर्च पेपर राइटिङ भन्दा पनि अर्को
हजुर
डिफरेन्ट एस्पेक्टमा जान्छ
त्यही भएर
हैन
लास्टमा सोधेको
एकदम
सर
सिम्पल कुरा के हो भने मैले चाहिँ युज गर्ने भनेको अर्काको लाइब्रेरी युज गर्ने हो डेभलप अल्गोरिदमै डेभलप गर्ने होइन अर्काको
हजुर
लाइब्रेरी युज गरेर लाइब्रेरीले चाहिँ मोडल क्रिएट गर्ने हो के बेस्ड अन डेटा चाहिँ सबै मैले नै बनाएको मैले गरेको कुराहरू चाहिँ सबै मेरै हो तर तिमीले अहिले चाहिँ धेरै जसो रेफरेन्स डेटाहरू टन्नै पाउँछौ रेफरेन्स डेटाहरू डिफ्रेन्ट युनिभर्सिटी ल्याबहरूले बनाइदिएको डेटाहरू पाउँछौ त्यो डेटालाई चाहिँ तिमीले आफ्नो तरिकाले मोडलिङ गर्ने आफ्नो तरिकाले केही कुरा ट्विक गरेर रिजल्ट निकालेर कम्पेयर गरेर अर्कासित चाहिँ हेरेर मैले हामीले गरेको चाहिँ अलिकति डिफ्रेन्ट छ अथवा यो मेथडबाट अलिकति फास्ट हुन्छ अलिकति स्लो हुन्छ अलिकति बेटर हुन्छ अथवा यो कुरा चाहिँ डिटेक्ट गरेन अरू कुरा सब राम्रोसित डिटेक्ट गर्यो भनेर पनि गर्न सक्छौ त्यही भएर गर्न चाह्यो भने रेफरेन्स डेटा पनि पाइन्छ आफूले बनाउन पनि सकिन्छ तर टाइम चाहिँ अलिकति बढी नै लाग्छ अब यो तिमीले सोचेको कुरा चाहिँ अब यहाँ हामीले अहिले घरमा बसेर रिसर्च गर्छु भनेर चाहिँ हुँदैन घरमा बसेर पनि गर्न सकिन्छ तर अलिकति राम्रै गाइड र अलिकति लङ टर्म कमिटमेन्ट नै चाहिन्छ के नत्र यो त युजुअली भनेको पिएचडी अब हाइली इन्भेस्टर भएको इन्भेस्टेड कम्पनीहरूले गर्ने रिसर्च हो डिप लर्निङको स्पेसली
थ्याङ्क यू सर
ओके
So we have another question from Radha Givire Didi. उहाँले चाहिँ स्टोरी टेलिङको बारेमा सोध्नु भएको छैन सर एक्चुअली आई एम गोना आस्क अबाउट द टु सरी आई एम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ अबाउट द स्टोरी टेलिङ अबाउट रिसर्च which Tridev sir described a little bit in short period of presentation, which was quite interesting. How can I learn to develop a story about my research? So उहाँले कसरी डेभलप गर्ने त्यो सोध्नु
ओके स्टोरी डेभलप गर्नलाई चाहिँ यो बेसिक चाहिँ जहिले पनि फाउन्डेसन बिल्ड गर्ने आफ्नो फिल्डको आफूले गर्न खोजेको कुराको जहिले पनि आफूलाई नलेज बेटर हुनुपर्छ आफ्नो नलेज बेटर छ आफूले त्यो सबै कुराहरू चाहिँ बुझ्या छ भने एक्सप्लेन गर्न केही पनि गाह्रो हुँदैन अब स्टोरी टेलिङ कस्तो हो भने पेपर राइटिङमा तिमीले सुरुमा स्टार्ट गर्ने ठुलोबाट जहिले पनि इट्स लाइक गोज डाउन टु फनल सेप भनौँ न सुरुमा ठुलो कुरा स्टार्ट गर्ने अब जस्तै भनौँ मेरो आफ्नो एकदम सिम्पल रिसर्चको वाटरकै भनौँ मैले सर्फेस वाटर गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अब सर्फेस वाटर भनेको चाहिँ अर्थमा वाटर सर्फेस चाहिँ सर्टेन अमाउन्ट छ जुन चाहिँ वाटर त्यसले चाहिँ त्यो क्वान्टिफिकेसन गर्ने हो भने धेरै कुराहरू एस्टिमेट गर्न सकिन्छ सर्फेस वाटर भनेको अब तिम्रो पानी कहाँ छ छैन त्यो पानी कतिको भोल्युम छ यदि भोल्युम क्याल्कुलेट गर्न पर्यो भने त्यसलाई इरिगेसन गर्न पर्यो भने त्यो सर्टेन पपुलेसन ग्रो हुँदैछ त्यो पपुलेसनलाई पुग्ने पानी छ कि छैन भन्ने कुराहरू एस्टिमेट गर्न सक्ने त्यसले इकोलोजी पनि मेन्टेन गर्छ अब इन्भाइरोमेन्ट क्लाइमेटहरूलाई पनि इम्प्याक्ट गर्छ कति ठाउँमा त्यो भएर सर्फेस वाटर एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ भन्ने कुरा एकदम मैले ठुलो सर्फेस वाटरको कुरा गरेँ अब सर्फेस वाटर चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट त छ अब त्यो इम्पोर्टेन्ट कुरालाई चाहिँ कसरी क्वान्टिफाई गर्छन् त मान्छेले भन्ने कुरा आउनु पर्यो त्यसपछि त्यो सानो कुरा आउनु पर्यो भन्दाखेरि सर्फेस वाटरलाई चाहिँ मेजर गर्ने तरिका भनेर आउनु पर्यो अब सर्फेस वाटर फिल्डमा गएर जिपिएस लिएर मेजर गर्दै दौडिने भनेको ट्रेडिसनल मेथड हो तर त्यो चाहिँ गर्ने भने बेसरी टाइम पनि खर्च हुन्छ पैसा पनि खर्च हुन्छ जुन हाम्रो जस्तो कन्ट्रीले बेहोर्नै सक्दैन त्यो भएर अब त्यसलाई फास्ट के गर्न सकिन्छ भन्दाखेरि रिमोट सेन्सिङ भन्ने एउटा टेक्नोलोजी छ जुनमा चाहिँ सेटेलाइट इमेजले ठुलो एरियाको फोटोग्राफ लिन्छ त्यसमा सर्टेन केही गर्यो भने सर्टेन केही प्रोसेसिङ गर्यो भने त्यसले ठ्याक्क पानी निकालिदिन्छ अथवा वाटरहरू निकालिदिन्छ भन्ने कुरा आयो अब त्यो निकालिदिएपछि तिमी सर्फेस वाटर रिमोट सेन्सिङमा आयो रिमोट सेन्सिङमा पनि मेथडहरूमा आयो अब त्यो पानी निकाल्ने भन्नेमा आयो अब पानी निकाल्नेमा पनि सबैभन्दा राम्रो भनेको फिल्डमा गएर त्यसको स्पेक्ट्रोमिटर लिएर रेकर्ड गरेर स्पेक्ट्रल कर्भ लिएर बल्ल गर्ने स्पेक्ट्रल एङ्गल म्यापरहरू युज गरेर गर्ने हो त्यो भनेको एकदमै कस्टली हुन्छ फेरि उही टाइम खर्च हुने हुन्छ त्यही भएर अर्को क्लासिफिकेसन मेथड छ मिक्स्ड फिचर मेथड छ तर त्यसको लागि पनि डेटाहरू चाहियो ट्रेनिङ डेटा र त्यसलाई टाइम अब त्यसलाई डेटा इनफ पुग्छ पुग्दैन भन्ने हुन्छ भेरिएसनहरू धेरै भयो भने कसरी मिलाउने भन्ने हुन्छ त्यो सिम्पल भनेको इन्डेक्स निकाल्ने र थ्रेसहोल्ड चेक गर्ने भन्ने कुरा हो हाम्रो गिभन एरियामा आफ्नो गिभन डेटामा चाहिँ इन्डेक्स हाल्ने गर्ने भन्ने कुरा आयो अब मैले के गरेँ रिमोट सेन्सिङबाट मेथडमा आएँ मेथडबाट फेरि इन्डेक्समा पुऱ्याइसकेँ मैले अब इन्डेक्समा चाहिँ के भन्ने भन्दा अब सबै कुराहरूलाई फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि नेपालमा पानी धेरै छ नेपालमा अब रिभरहरू एकदम धेरै छ लेकहरू एकदम धेरै छ तर नेपाल यस्तो ठाउँ छ कि जहाँ चाहिँ अब 60 मिटरदेखि 8000सम्म छ एलिभेसन भेरिएसन एकदम धेरै छ अनि वाटरको डाइभर्सिटी पनि एकदम धेरै छ कहीँ खैरो पानी छ कहीँ सेतो पानी छ कहीँ कालो पानी छ कहीँ एकदम क्लियर छ त्यो पानी धेरै छ ऊ धेरै छ त्यो ठाउँमा इन्डेक्स चाहिँ टेस्ट गर्दाखेरि कस्तो हुन्छ भनेर अहिलेसम्म कसैले कामै गरेका छैन, अहिलेसम्म नेपालमा त्यो कसैले गरेकै छैन भने अब हामीले चाहिँ नेपालमा इन्डेक्स मेथड युज गरेर टेस्ट गर्यो भने हेर्यो भने कतिको रियल डेटा आउँछ, कतिको डेटाहरू चाहिँ म्याच हुन्छ। यदि कसैले चाहिँ पछि प्रोजेक्ट गर्नु पर्यो भने अथवा फ्युचरमा वाटर एस्टिमेट गर्नु पर्यो भने नेपाल गभर्मेन्टले इयरली डेटाबेस बनाउन खोज्ला, त्यस्तो गर्न पर्यो भने इन्डेक्स मेथडले हुन्छै हुँदैन कि हामीले पैसै खर्च गर्नुपर्छ त भन्ने कुरा हेर्नलाई चाहिँ हामीले यो काम गर्ने के गर्ने भन्दा सर्फेस वाटर अब सेटेलाइटको इमेज युज गरेर सर्फेस वाटर चाहिँ इन्डेक्स मेथडबाट निकालेर त्यसको इभ्यालुएसन र कम्प्यारिजन गर्ने, इभ्यालुएसन गर्ने भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ अब यो गरिसकेपछि तिम्रो इम्प्याक्ट कहाँ आयो भने यसबाट एउटा इन्फर्मेसन जेनेरेट भयो कि यो कुरा यहाँ हुन्छ हुँदैन। यदि हुन्थ्यो भने भइहाल्यो, त्यसबाट रिजल्ट आयो, अरूले कसैले एडप्ट गर्न पाए, त्यही फलो गर्न पाए, एकदमै टाइम सेभिङ भयो। यदि भएन भने पनि कहिलेकाहीँ चाहिँ नेगेटिभ चाहिँ रिजल्ट धेरै जसरी छाप्दैनन्। देयर आर लाइक सम जर्नल्स हु अल्सो पब्लिस नेगेटिभ रिजल्ट्स। नेगेटिभ रिजल्ट जर्नल भनेर पनि छ क्यारे, एउटा स्पेसली जर्नल नै छ। त्यसमा के गर्न मिल्छ भने नेगेटिभ रिजल्ट पनि पब्लिस गर्न मिल्छ ताकि अरू कसैले चाहिँ वेस्ट अफ टाइम नहोस् उनीहरूको कि यो त गरे रहेछ, यो फेलियर भयो भनेपछि इट सेभ्स अ लट अफ टाइम। जस कतैबाट पनि के गरे पनि अब यही कुरालाई चाहिँ तिमीले सर्फेस वाटर नलगेर पहिले रिमोट सेन्सिङबाट घुमाएर पनि लान सक्छौ। रिमोट सेन्सिङमा यस्तो यस्तो हुन्छ, रिमोट सेन्सिङमा चाहिँ यस्तो यस्तो मेथड युज गर्छन्, यो गर्छन्। ल्यान्डस्याट चाहिँ एकदम धेरै युज भएको सेटेलाइट हो। सेटेलाइटमा चाहिँ वान अफ द चाहिँ युज भइरहेको ल्यान्ड कभर म्यापिङ एकदमै युज हुने कुरा हो। त्यसमा पनि सर्फेस वाटर एकदम इम्पोर्टेन्ट हो भनेर त्यहाँ त्यसरी फनेलिङ पनि गर्न सक्छौ। स्टोरी जहाज पनि बनाउन सकिन्छ, तर जे होस् त्यो सबै कुरा लिङ्क हुनु पर्यो। लास्टमा तिम्रो अब्जेक्टिभसित चाहिँ सबै कुरा अलाइन हुनु पर्यो, त्यही हो।
Excuse me, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. यो केस जुन स्टोरी टेलिङको लागि यति धेरै डिस्क्राइब गर्नुभयो र मैले यसमा अलिकति के जान्न चाहेको भने नि त्यो स्टोरी टेलिङ भनेको आर्टिकल राइटिङकै फर्म जस्तै बग्दै जाने हो।
एक्चुअली आर्टिकल पनि त्यही नै हो। इन्ट्रोडक्सन चाहिँ कम्प्लिटली स्टोरी टेलिङ हो होइन। अब मैले खासमा स्टोरी टेलिङ भनेको किन हो भने तिमीले कसैलाई बुझाउन सक्छौ भने द्याट इज समथिङ गुड के। यदि बुझाउन सकेनौ भने तिमीले आफूले बुझाए हैनौ भन्ने कुरा हो होइन। अब यसरी कथा लेखेर चाहिँ लेख्ने चाहिँ होइन। तिमीलाई सबै फ्याक्ट्स र एक्चुअल स्टेटमेन्ट, युनिभर्सल ट्रुथ र कसैको आधारमा कसैको रिसर्चमा रेफरेन्स गरेर चाहिँ लेख्न पर्छ। तर दिस इज वान अफ द वे।
Okay, thank you very much.
सर वी हेभ आवर फाइनल क्वेसन। अब यहाँ अहिलेको लागि सर होइन हाम्रो सुनिल खड्का दाइले सोध्नु भएको छ होइन, पेन्डेमिकले गर्दा उहाँ फिल्डमा जान पाउनु भएन। सो फिल्डमा नगइकन कुनै थेसिस लेख्न कतिको उपयुक्त हुन्छ भन्ने प्रश्न हो उहाँको होइन सर। अब प्लिज सर एन्सर दिस क्वेसन।
रिसर्च भनेको त्यही भने नि अब अघि भने जस्तो बसेर केही कुरा गर्यो, केही कुरा जुनै पनि कुरा गर्यो भने पनि त्यसको भ्यालिडेसन चाहिँ चाहिन्छ कि। भ्यालिडेसन सधैँ फिल्डबाटै हुन्छ भने जरुरी छैन। कति कुराहरू जस्तै रिसेन्टली एउटा लाइक 𝑹𝒆𝒔𝒄𝒉 भाइ अमन भन्ने भाइले पब्लिस गरेको पेपर छ। उसले चाहिँ एनडीभीआई युज गरेको हो। एनडीभीआईमा तिम्रो एनडीभीआई को प्रोफाइल यदि तिमीले प्लट गर्यो भने इयरली त्यसले चाहिँ फेनोलोजी क्रिएट गर्छ। फेनोलोजिकल ग्राफले चाहिँ तिम्रो सिफ्ट कतातिर भइरहेछ, तिम्रो ग्रासेसहरू कहिले ग्रो भइरहेछन्, ग्रासेसहरू कहिले मरिरहेछन्, ग्रासेसहरू कहिले पिक भइरहेछन् भन्ने कुराहरू दिन्छ। यदि सर्टेन सिजनमा लाइक भनौँ न जनवरीमा हुन्थ्यो अनि मार्चमा मर्थ्यो भने जनवरी र मार्चमा चाहिँ त्यो ग्राफ एनडीभीआईको ग्राफ कर्भ आउनु पर्ने, तर त्यो सिफ्ट हुँदै हुँदै फेब्रुअरी मार्चमा पुग्यो भने त्यो कुरा चाहिँ अब तिमीले भ्यालिडेट गर्नलाई चाहिँ फिल्डमा गएरै गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने जरुरी छैन। त्यो एनडीभीआईबाट निकाल्यो त्यही इटसेल्फ इज अ प्रुफ भयो। अब त्यसलाई चाहिँ टेम्परेचरसित, क्लाइमेटसित कुनै डेटाहरू जस्तै टेम्परेचर, रेनफल डेटाहरूसित कोरिलेट गर्न सक्छौ भने त्यो पनि तिम्रो भ्यालिडेसन हो। त्यही भएर सेकेन्डरी डेटा यदि कसैले भ्यालिड गरेको सेकेन्डरी डेटा छ भने त्यसको आधारमा पनि गर्न सक्छौ।
एक्सक्युज मी सर, म अरू केही कुरा बुझ्न चाहे यसमा। मलाई सुन्नुभएको छ?
सुनिरहेको छु मैले।
सर मैले चाहिँ यो सिभिल इन्जिनियरिङ कन्स्ट्रक्सनको चाहिँ एउटा युनिभर्सिटीको फङ्सनल रिक्वायरमेन्टको बारेमा चाहिँ थेसिस लिन लागेको थिएँ चाइनामा। अनि तर अहिले हामीहरूले चाहिँ त्यो त्यहाँ मेरो पोटेन्सियल सुपरभाइजरले के भन्यो भन्दाखेरि लगभग मैले प्रपोजल रेडी गरिसकेको थिएँ, यु हेभ टु कम हियर भनेर चाहिँ उसले भन्यो। अनि उसले भन्छ अब त नआइकन गर्न सक्ने 8 गर्छस् भने गर, होइन भनेदेखि चाहिँ साह्रो छ भन्छ। अनि मलाई त्यो टपिक इन्ट्रेस्टेड पनि हुँ त्यो टपिकमा। अनि प्रेसरले लिँदाखेरि पछि के गाह्रो साह्रो त हुने हो कि होइन कि सर?
ओके, यहाँ यस्तो हो हेर, अब तिम्रो चाइनाको, म पनि चाइनामा काम गरेँ, अहिले चाइनामा फरेनरलाई जान नदिएको अवस्था हुँदाखेरि तिम्रो अनसर्टेनिटी एकदम हाई छ।
हजुर
अनसर्टेनिटी हाई छ, तिम्रो इन्ट्रेस्ट मात्र ठुलो कुरा होइन कि कहिलेकाहीँ तिम्रो रियालिटी पनि हेर्नुपर्छ, ग्राउन्ड रियालिटी के हो भनेर पनि बुझ्नुपर्छ। तिम्रो सुपरभाइजर, अब चाइनामा अलिकति सुपरभाइजरहरूको आफ्नो आफ्नो बिहेभियरहरू हुन्छ होइन। फ्लेक्सिबल सुपरभाइजर छ, उसले चाहिँ अलिकति तिमीलाई कोही ग्रेजुएट स्टुडेन्ट दिन्छ, अन्डर ग्रेडहरू अथवा ल्याबमेट्सहरूले चाहिँ हेल्प गरिदिन्छन्, ल्याबमेट्सहरूले कसैले कुरा गरिदिन्छ, डेटाहरू एक्सेस गरिदिन्छन् भने यु क्यान गो फरवर्ड होइन। तर यदि कसैले हेल्प गर्दैन, तिमीले सोल्ली गर्नुपर्छ र नेपालमा त्यो कुरा रन गर्न सक्दैनौ भने आई विल नट सजेस्ट टु गो विथ द्याट, किनभने चाहिँ तिम्रो फ्युचर डिले हुने हो, तिमीलाई गाह्रो पर्ने हो। त्यही भएर त्यसलाई चाहिँ पछि बरु अरू कुनै कतै अरू कुनै उसमा लेभलमा गयो, अरू केही पढ्यो भने त्यहाँतिर कन्डक्ट गर, नत्र चाहिँ अहिले आफूले गर्न सक्ने आफ्नो एबिलिटी अनुसारको गर, किनभने थेसिस इज लाइक योर मेन गेट है। अब त्यो पार गर्नु भने डिग्री नै पाउँदैनौ।
अनि अर्को यस्तो के, सरी, अर्को के लाग्यो भने मलाई अब हामीले गरेको अहिले यो जुन स्टुडेन्ट लेभलमा स्टडी गरेको बेला गरेको रिसर्च टपिकले चाहिँ पछि पनि हामीलाई केही डिटरमाइन गर्छ, फ्युचर अरू अपर्च्युनिटीहरू ग्र्याब गर्नको लागि फ्युचर डिटरमाइन यसले गर्ने छ भनेदेखि अहिले फेरि यहाँ बसेर कुनै त्यो अब ग्रेजुएट हुनको लागि मात्रै गरेको जस्तो थेसिस रिसर्च गरेर पनि त राम्रो त नहोला नि त।
ओके, त्यो कुरा पनि ट्रु हो हेर। लाइफमा एउटा कुनै कुराहरू चाहिँ एउटा डाइमेन्सनबाट हेरेर त हुँदैन होइन। अब यो अहिले तिमीले भनेको कुरा अर्को डाइमेन्सन हो। अब तिम्रो मिड टर्म र लङ टर्म गोल के छ होइन, नेपालमै काम गर्छु, नेपालमै बसिरहेको छु, नेपालमा के गरिरहेको छु र पछि गएर कहाँसम्म के गर्ने इच्छा छ भन्ने कुराले हेर्छौ भने नेपालमा सिम्पली काम गर्न हेर, बाहिरको डिग्रीले खासै फरक पर्दैन। अब रियालिटी सबैलाई थाहा नै छ, जति जे पढे पनि। अब तिमीलाई चाहिँ बाहिर पछि अब ग्राड स्कुलमा जान छ, पछि फ्युचर अलिकति एक्सप्यान्ड गर्नुपर्ने छ, अरू केही सोचिरहेको छौ र त्यो फिल्डलाई चाहिँ केही निस मार्केट बनाएर अगाडि बढ्न खोजिरहेको छौ भने त्यो फिल्डमै गर। तर त्यसको लागि चाहिँ तिमी कन्फिडेन्ट कहाँ हुनुपर्छ भने डेटा तिमीले पाउँछौ पाउँदैनौ, तिम्रो सुपरभाइजरले कतिको तिमीलाई सपोर्ट गर्छ, तिम्रो ल्याबमेट कोही छ कि छैन जसलाई तिमीले अलिकति केही कुरा दिएर अथवा केही कुराहरू चाहिँमा सम्झौता गरेर तिमीले त्यो लिन सक्छौ सक्दैनौ। तिमी सक्छौ र गर्न सक्छौ भने बल्ल गर, एउटा कुराले मात्र नसोच। तिमी अननोनली, अब जस्तै मसितै भएको मैले 2 जना भाइहरू सँगै गएको चिनेको भाइहरू, म त्यहाँ चाइना छँदाखेरि एउटा भाइले गर्न नसकेर उतै फर्क्यो, उसले गरेन, उसले डिग्री नै छोडिदियो। अर्कोले नेपालबाट गर्न सक्ने पोखरा बसेर गर्ने कुरा गर्यो, गरेर सक्यो पनि, सकेर अहिले चाहिँ अब युनिभर्सिटीमा असिस्टेन्ट प्रोफेसर पनि पायो नेपालमा। अब भन न, उसले चाहिँ आँटेन, उसले छोडिदियो, उतै गएर गर्छु भनेर कुर्दै बस्यो, 4th इयरमा पुगिसक्यो ऊ मास्टर्सको। अर्कोले चाहिँ सकेर यहाँ जब गरेर अनि असिस्टेन्ट प्रोफेसर पनि भइसक्यो अर्को ठाउँमा।
भनेपछि अब मैले यहाँ हाम्रो नेपालमै हेरेर पनि के टपिक्सहरू रोजेर चाहिँ गर्नलाई नै सजिलो होला जस्तो लाग्यो सर। हजुरले भन्दाखेरि अब त्यहाँको प्रोफेसरहरू पनि खासै रेस्पोन्सिभ हुँदो रहेनछ, धेरै कुराहरूमा चाहिँ उहाँहरूको रेस्पोन्स पाइँदैन, टाइमली रेस्पोन्स नै हुँदैन। अनि अब अलि ल्याङ्ग्वेज प्रब्लम पनि हुन्छ हामीहरूसँग, त्यो हुँदा सजिलो वे नै लिनु राम्रो होला होइन सर?
एउटा होइन, यस्तो हो, सजिलो वे भन्दा पनि तिम्रो रियालिटी हेर्ने, सजिलो र गाह्रो भन्ने कुरा हुँदैन हेर, कुनै कुरा पनि सजिलो हुँदैन लाइफमा। तर कुन कुरा चाहिँ तिमीले अहिले गर्न सक्छौ र कुन कुराले चाहिँ तिमीलाई चाहिँ बेटर एडभान्टेज दिन्छ कि अहिले तत्काल, त्यो कुरालाई फोकस गर।
थ्याङ्क यू सर, थ्याङ्क यू।